back to Girl Take the Lead, the podcast where we explore the real, raw, and remarkable stories of people breaking cycles, finding freedom, and leading with courage. Today's guest is Salvatore Manzi, a leadership communication coach, speaker, and author who helps mission driven leaders elevate their voice, presence, and power. Over the past 2 decades, he's coached everyone from scientists at Genentech to speakers addressing gender inequality at the United Nations, helping them turn insight into influence. Salvatore's brand new book, Clear and Compelling Communication Strategies for Big Thinkers with Bold Ideas, distills 20 years of research and coaching into one practical playbook for leaders, educators, and students alike. I think it should be required reading in every university. In our conversation, Salvatore and I dive into how communication is both an art and a science, and also simple ways to take up space and speak before it becomes comfortable. He also reminded us that our voice is not something to perfect, it's something to practice. And every time we speak with courage, we make space for others to do the same. So let's jump in. Here you go. Salvatore, welcome to Girl Take the Lead.
Woo! It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
We're going to talk about communication. I love it. So first, though, would you introduce yourself to our audience?
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. My name is Salvatore, and I help leaders communicate their expertise and lead with presence by coaching principles and strategies around communication. I've been doing this for 20 years. I work with a lot of analytical, data-driven, uh, sometimes introverted leaders who have to communicate, sometimes for the first time, their perspective or influence up or learn how to guide a team. And
Yeah,
I put it all into my book.
great. And so tell us about your book.
Yeah, the book is called Clear and Compelling Communication Strategies for Big Thinkers with Bold Ideas. A subtle nod to my introverts out there. I myself as an introvert. I've spent the last 20 years coaching leaders on how to communicate with these strategies. And I myself am an introvert and analytical. And when my father was a public speaker, would come home from a conference lit up at the like impact that he made, I was like, I want to do this. And then when I got on the stage, I crumbled. It was a
Oh,
disaster.
no.
I was like, oh, this doesn't. And when I tried to find support, I found that most communication training is geared towards the extrovert and not the introvert, not the analytical, not the data-driven leader. And so I have, because I worked in the Bay Area for so long, working with engineers and scientists and so forth, I've created a whole book of strategies and techniques to help communicate effectively and make oneself like present, command that room and exude a leadership presence.
Well, I think as I was reading your book, I know you have written this more for companies and business, but I thought it should be a textbook in every university because
Let's go with that.
because having seen our students get up and have absolutely no training in communication skills and read off of their phones,
Good.
I was floored. I mean, I went, oh my God, we've really got to help it. And so I'm thinking this book should be in colleges and it should also be given as gifts the holidays.
Graduation presents.
Exactly. And you've just launched, right? I mean,
Yeah. The
oh,
book launches,
congratulations.
it's live October 13th and super thrilled. It's been a year-long process. And I mean, I'm compressing 20 years of working with
Yeah.
people. So it's that.
So people, you got to go check this book out.
We make a living with our voice.
Yeah.
whether it's written or verbal. And sooner or later, what's on the page needs to be spoken from the stage, whether it's a small one-on-one or a big group. And if we're not training every generation how to communicate their expertise, we're going to keep like this
Mhm.
pattern of people becoming more and more withdrawn from each other and from society and not sharing their very important perspectives and their insights that's going to help
Yeah.
influence the betterment of all of us.
Yeah. And leadership, I mean, people perceive leaders as somebody that can communicate.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, it's thoughtful and we'll go through some of the aspects of important communication that you've outlined, but I think it's at some point you're going to want to be in front of the room and you're going to want to lead. So let's talk about the three pillars that you outline. Tell us about them.
The approach to communication, because it's an art and a science, right? And I studied neuroscience, psychology, behavioral sciences to understand how the brain works, and put that into the first pillar, content. The first pillar is content. How do you take all of your brilliance and put it in a way that can connect with your listener in an aha sort of fashion? That's the
Mhm.
first pillar, getting your content. The second pillar is more art. It's delivery. How do you actually imbue your content with meaning?
Mm.
What tone of voice are you using? How are you using your eyes, your gestures, your posture? That is an art. It takes time to develop that. So all of the strategies and techniques from everything from acting to stand up to improv, it's all in there to help a person slowly but surely develop that art. The
Mhm.
third pillar is really where the work is, and that's presence. What are the beliefs and experiences that are guiding your ability to show up in that situation, to
Mhm.
express yourself, to feel the sense of belonging enough that you can communicate courageously whatever the tough messages that you need to deliver? So, content, delivery, and presence are the three pillars to begin working on when you approach communication. And the book breaks it into three separate parts so that you can work a little bit on each one when you feel like it.
Mm. Is there a particular pillar that you think our younger generations need a little bit more help with, or that you see? Like, is it delivery?
Ah, I like the question, and I'm trying to think generationally. Like I'm Gen X,
Mhm.
I had certain things. I think that generationally, the younger generation, content AI is driving it now.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
use AI to drive the content. However, AI doesn't take into account all of the listeners' perspectives.
Hmm.
And we all suffer from what's called the curse of knowledge, meaning that I know what I'm trying to say so well that I don't always communicate it to you in a way that makes sense because I'm leaving out contextual information or I'm overcomplicating that contextual information when I communicate. So AI doesn't factor that in,
Hmm.
unfortunately. Plus, like there's just some it's not at a point yet that it's going to do all of that. So I think that they have a leg up on us having AI as a brainstorming device. Delivery, I think, is critical, especially having been through COVID and lost the social interaction during that time.
Yeah.
But I think honestly, it's presence.
Ah, okay.
And I'll tell you why. Presence is all of the set of influences, experiences that have led to the way you show up.
Hmm.
And younger generations have had a very unique set of experiences given our society, given the political environment, given everything that's going on, that influences the way they are taught to express themselves. What gets rewarded, what doesn't get rewarded, clickbait,
Hmm.
the hyperbole in the thing. So we don't have really good role models that are teaching generationally how to communicate effectively and not just to get more likes on one of the social media platforms.
I also think that what I witnessed in the college level was a little bit of the giving the facts, but not as a story and not with their listener in mind.
Yeah.
It's more like a delivery. But I noticed that like there wasn't the engagement with the eye with your eyes or with, understanding what that audience cares about.
Right. There's a connection piece
Yeah.
missing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you're onto something there, in that because younger generations have been taught to connect through device,
Hmm.
not as much one-on-one, there is a lack of training in creating that connection organically with a one-to-one or one-to-many type of audience. I think you're onto something.
So if we look at your pillars, what would be the most important thing you'd want our listeners to know about each one?
Ah, in terms of content, I talked about the curse of knowledge. That influences how we try to structure our content. So I won't go back to that. But number one, content, start with you, then me. It's the number one
Mhm.
principle in my book. I think it's the number one principle of communication. That if I intend to influence somebody else, I need to start with where they're at, which means I need to speak to what I understand their perspective to be and
Mhm.
why I perceive my topic to be relevant. So build relevance, create the connection at the beginning of any interaction, and you're on a good course. And to your point, there's two things I'd say: not dialogue, not download. Like we can't just dump data down on somebody.
Yeah.
That we need like an interaction. We need a back and forth. And secondly, metaphors move minds. I can tell you all the data that is out there, but unless my content actually has a story component, whether it's analogy, a metaphor, a simile, any of those things, it's not going to stick. It's not really going to
Yeah.
engage in the listener's mind. So dialogue that download and metaphors move minds for the content portion.
Okay.
Getting into the delivery, what I would offer about delivery is that you may be on mute, but your body isn't. Communication is multimodal. Your posture, your vocal inflection, the eyebrows, your facial expressions, your gesture, your movement is all sending messages
Right.
to your listeners. It's creating meaning with what you're trying to say. And number one, don't try to correct everything. Don't actually try to correct. Look at each aspect as an opportunity to refine the way that you're showing up, become
Yeah.
more obvious. I'll give a short story is that I took yoga teacher training class back in my aspirational days. Whew, there's no money in teaching yoga, but um, I was in a pose and man, I was crushing it. I had the right bend, I had my drishti, my eye vision was focused, my back was straight, everything was great. And the teacher came over and just tapped my foot because my left foot was off. There is just that little bit of unawareness that I had within my body in that pose that was sending a message. And the teacher was able to pick up on it. And it taught me this: everything about your delivery is sending a message. You
Yeah.
can't possibly work on everything at once. Pick one thing, your voice, practice with it for a week, make it intentional how you're speaking, and see what happens to the way people are receiving you in different contexts. So, delivery, it's a
Yeah.
whole art. Take it one piece at a time, have fun with it in different contexts. So,
But I would think authenticity would show up there. Is
ah,
that
I love this. Now we're getting into the third part, presence.
presence? Okay.
Presence is the third pillar, and here's my go-to on this. What got you to where you are is not what's going to get you to where you want to go. Great that you got there. Great that you had the tools or you found a way to get from here to there. There is a point where you have to stretch outside of your comfort zone.
Hmm.
Fake it till you make it. Try on an outfit that doesn't feel exactly comfortable until it becomes comfortable. So it's going to feel inauthentic the first time you use that voice, right? That's inauthentic. That's not me. But I can authentically integrate it into my communication as a means of demonstrating, like I just did. So I can shift what is authentic to me and expand the full range of what I bring to any communication by stepping outside of what feels comfortable until it does become authentic.
Ah,
Makes sense?
interesting. I'm kind of thinking you've taken acting classes, or
Ah,
we should take acting classes perhaps as presenters.
there's value to that because there is an essence of performing until it feels authentic. And once it feels
Mhm.
authentic, then you don't have to perform it anymore. You just embody it.
Yeah.
But I would say yes, acting, improv. I took a stand-up class. I've taken all of them just to see what I
Uh-huh.
learn. There's value in all of them. So go to the one that appeals. I would offer, though, the biggest bang for the buck is improv because it teaches responsiveness
Mhm.
and getting over the fear of that initial, like trusting your gut and saying what's on your mind.
Mm. I know you talked a little bit about presence and about things to remember there. Are there other strategies that you would recommend for presence to help us kind of tune in to who we're being in that moment?
Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding? Are you letting me go there? How much time do we have? Like, presence is where it really is. Like, what
Yeah.
is it that really creates our sense of presence? Who out there do you look at and say, oh, that person has presence? How do you get to that? And I would offer to anybody that is looking to really launch a more effective communication style is number one, reframe the rush. It is perfectly natural to feel fear or anxiety when you get up to
Mhm.
speak in front of other people. It's human. The choice is how do you label that rush, right? Reframe it not as fear, but as excitement. When you get on a roller coaster, that first dip, your body is going through something and you can label it as fear and scream or fun and laugh. It's up to you. And your label is what determines how it's going to flow. So reframe the rush. This is good. It's a good thing that I'm feeling this rush right now. It's giving me the courage and energy I need to get up in front of people and speak, right? So reframe the rush would be the first one.
Who I know I didn't I'm throwing a question at you that we didn't really talk about, but who do you see out there who you think is like, boy, they've got it. They're such a good presenter. They have presence. They have it nailed. I mean, I, I we've recently gone through the passing of Robert Redford, and when I look at, him, I mean, he was always succinct, on point.
Mhm.
I love, his presence, his gravitas in the room. Like you walk in and
Agreed. Agreed. And it took him a lifetime to get to that, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
I would agree. Robert Redford, I would offer it's not just one person, it's more people in different places that I've seen him, right? Simon Sinek inspires
Mhm.
me sometimes. He
Yeah.
sort of has a mad, passionate, like, oh, let me tell you a little bit, and kind of goes into that. And I love it. Like, stir it up. I love it. Tina Fey
Hmm.
as an art of delivery and timing that is unparalleled out there. Not to get political, but I think Barack Obama, for me, embodies a sense of grounded presence no matter what's
Oh,
going on.
huge.
And yeah, and going again, I guess Oprah is still in that same category, but Oprah has a way of expressing herself in a way that fills the room, that pulls you in and engages, and you can't help, you can't turn away. You're like, what is going to happen next? And
Yeah,
it's come from their trying a lot of different things in different arenas until they found what's authentic for them and
yeah,
showed up.
yeah. I think it's great when we can look at some leaders and just go, yeah, they move people without a lot of words, without a lot of commands. It's people want to follow them.
Yeah.
Um, you talk about warmth.
Hmm.
That's when it comes to the type of communication that we have now, asynchronous
Yeah.
communication. Well, first of all, define that because I had to go look it up.
Hey, thank you for bringing that up. I let a few friends pre-read my book, and they all said, "What is asynchronous communication?" I'm like, I thought everybody know this, but that's a curse of knowledge, right? Because I thought
Right.
Hear this. Asynchronous means that I can send you a message and you can get it and read it whenever you want. So
Mhm.
I've sent you, it's not in sync with where you are reading or receiving it. So that's it. Synchronous communication is you and I right now. It's a
Right,
dialogue having it.
right,
Asynchronous is I send you a text message. When you feel like it or when you get to it, you read it and you respond. When I feel like it and feel it, whatever, I respond. So that's asynchronous.
right.
And warmth inside of asynchronous communication is it's a befuddling experience. This is why we have emoticons now, emojis,
Yeah,
text messages, because people were misreading. So I put a little emoji in there so you understand that was a joke, or this is me laughing, or
yeah.
understand the tone of the message, because research shows asynchronous communication, that text message, that email, that Slack is received from a negative perspective. Neutral reads negative.
So, what's an example of neutral?
Can you look at this when you get time?
Okay.
I said it in a neutral voice right now, but you can
Okay.
imagine is, can you look at this when you get time? Or can you look at this when you get time? Like the person is going to read it in their head depending on how their day is going,
Hmm.
how they think about you as a person
Yeah.
and sending them. What was the last interaction you had with them before sending that? That is going to influence how they read that very simple, neutral 8-word sentence.
Yeah.
Right? So the trick is you can't always add emojis into a text message and all those things, and it's not always professional. Start with some warmth. Start with appreciation. Start with a you, then me. I know you have a lot on your plate. I appreciate your time in looking at this when you can.
Mm-hmm.
Reads very differently, even neutrally, than the first one. Just adding a little you than me before you get to the heart of your message is going to shift the person to read it in a different way. I don't know about you, and you can tell me, but I can tell you the number of times I've received a message and got so heated up and had to walk away, and then poof, and then an hour went back and read it, and I'm like, oh, I missed that word. That one word in there changes the whole meaning of the message. But because I'd already had an experience with that person, I read the message a different way. This
Yeah.
is the risk of asynchronous if we start with a you then me.
I always love it when, I had a boss that I didn't really care for, and I'd go, you should listen to this email they sent. It's like
Exactly.
I'm giving my my twist on it. I like what you said though too about intention when it comes to that kind of communication, to know what you're trying to do. And sometimes I know that we're thinking, oh man, everybody's in a hurry. I'm just going to put this out there. And yeah, like you've said, it doesn't have to be a paragraph. It can just be, a few lines. That it really is, when it comes down to it, the communication is about the intention that we have
Yeah.
in our communication, like why we're doing it.
And 99% of the time, we don't think about our intention before we communicate
Yeah.
because we're used to either speaking our mind or having somebody with us who kind of knows and understands us and can vibe with what we're going with. But in a professional context, if I have a message with meaning, I need to set intention beforehand. What is the goal? What am I trying to accomplish? What do I want them to have as a takeaway here?
Right.
And when I take that 10 seconds before opening my mouth, what a difference. Imagine politics today if people weren't just speaking the first thing on their mind, but were actually taking a minute to think, what is the impact I want to have with what I have to say right now?
Yeah,
I wish.
definitely. So a little bit about how we can improve our communication, because I guess the first thing is to know a bit about of our communication, get some feedback on it. Like what else?
I think that really is number one, to understand how are you being received? How do people in your office, how do your colleagues, how do your direct reports receive you? If are they getting the same thing that you are intentionally putting out there or meaning to put out there? very specific feedback will go a long way. Hey, my goal is to inspire the team. Can you tell me at the end of this if I did well at creating a sense of inspiration or went too far? Let me
Yeah.
know. Very specific feedback will help. And I always, whenever I start coaching with somebody, I do a 360 of their world to find
Mhm.
out how is this person being received by their peers and colleagues and direct reports? And what is it they don't know about how they're being received? And that's where we want to start working and working on. My personally, if I'm gonna improve on anything, I need a target. So if a person out there is listening and like, I want to be a better communicator, why? Number one, why? What's the intention? So that you can get promoted, so that you can get your word out there, so that you can have people not asking you, huh, at the end of every sentence. What is the reason you want to get better? And what is one aspect from content delivery or presence that you want to work on to work towards that goal?
Mm. You're giving me so much food for thought. I'm just like going, okay, yeah. Like, what is, like I'm thinking about my intention with the podcast, right? It's a communication vehicle. One of the most important things to me is that our listeners and viewers learn something new that they didn't know before, either about themselves or about others, so that they're more effective in what they're doing. I think we're doing that okay right now with the two of us.
Well, I mean, yes, 100%. And I mean, to me, it's in the name, girl, take the lead. I mean, it's like this is a source of empowerment. This is, to me, an opportunity to say, oh, you got this. Like,
Yeah.
reach past your fear and go for it.
Yeah, definitely. So, one of the things that I mentioned to you, I was a little intrigued by was different communication styles. You had some neat little insights about that. I think you should share with our audience.
There, I was joking with you that, like, when I think of communication styles, I think of the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Like, okay, there's the sleepy. Oh, today we're going to be looking at right? And then there's the
Right.
and the research shows and what you have to do, and then you've got the whole assortment. But I think that when I look at it back, when I step back, I think everybody communicates differently in different contexts. I like to say that all communication is contextual. Depends on who you're talking to, what you're talking about, and the environment in which you are talking, right? And we don't change who we are for these things, but we do shape our communication based on these things. So
Mm,
there's a personality type, but I think there's more of a personality essence that comes through, right? If I could, I'm going to present something that might be a little bit too big for, I don't know how much time we have left, but I look at the behaviors of communication on a continuum. Over here, we have the agency, high agency. This is the sovereign in the room. This is the authority. I am speaking. You're going to listen to me because I am the authority, and this is what's going to be done, right? All the way down to the relational side. And this is the kindergarten teacher, like, oh, hey, how's it going? I want you to feel comfortable here. You belong. I see you, and I want you to feel good, right? We
yeah.
know how to behave on this continuum. Everybody does. Everybody knows how to sit on the throne and how to sit at the children's table at Thanksgiving. We all know how to behave on that. However, many of us have been conditioned to behave in a way that is not contextually appropriate. I'll give you an example. I grew up gay in a small town in Kansas. Obviously, I wasn't invited to bring my whole self to the table every time. I had to overcome that conditioning
Uh-huh.
in order to make myself show up with a sense of sovereign and agency
Mm,
in a situation where what I had to say had to be said. And I can easily knee-jerk response to the relational side and help the person who I'm speaking with feel more comfortable or at ease with what I'm saying.
mhm,
And there's
mhm,
a whole set of behaviors that goes in that. So communication style, I think, is influenced by your behavior. And the aha for anybody listening is what are the triggers that are causing you to unconsciously go to a behavior rather than what's appropriate for that situation. And how can you show up differently or exercise a different behavior? What would it be like for you to show up and take up space? Just spread your stuff out in that meeting and be like, hey, you all, like, and just like take up space, which is maybe counter to how you show up, just to see what it feels like in your body.
Yeah.
Because you deserve to take up space. Nobody's telling you, well, some people are telling you you can't take up space, let's be honest. But what would it be like for you to move past any conditioning and take up the space that you are rightfully deserved?
Again, I'm sitting here thinking through like all of this great stuff you're telling us. I what I'm walking away with what you said is our styles are going to change. We're going to be basically the same person. We are the same person, but in different situations, we're going to show up differently. And we wouldn't be this, I wouldn't, as I mentioned to you, treat, I wouldn't present to a sales force the same way I would to my book club. Right. So there we are. Different, still yo, but different ways of communicating and being with people. I I definitely think that your idea of the spectrum and behaviors, that's really a big thing because sometimes those triggers get us into real trouble
Yeah,
and we stop communicating, we go away,
shut down.
we shut down, and we don't have our voice anymore. We've
We let somebody else take the credit for what we just said. We
Yeah,
let somebody else interrupt us in that meeting. We let somebody else question our facts that we have all of the data for because
yeah,
we've been conditioned to believe that that's acceptable and that's how we as a person get treated in that situation.
yeah. Well, I appreciated your honesty about being a gay man because for me it was being um, Mexican and walking into a room and
Oof.
being a Chavez. Like you said though, if you learn this spectrum, you can and you see the trigger that's happening, you can actually rise above that. Love that.
And I would offer that there are different methods, and I'm just going to share them real quickly.
Sure.
One is
Yeah.
physicality. Like our body mind connection. Like if I go like this, it's going to affect the way I feel. It's going to affect the way I'm talking to that person.
Right.
Versus when I open up fully.
Yeah.
So one of the hacks that I use when I don't feel comfortable at that table is to puff up and spread out and take up space so that I feel this loop starting of like, oh yeah, I belong. I'm
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I don't need anybody's permission to be here. I'm here. I'm telling myself this, even though there's a part of me that's like, you're way to, you don't belong here at all. Like, did you
Yeah.
see that look that person just gave you?
Yeah.
But like the body is telling me, no, you belong here. So that's number one. And the second is the mind. The mind is going to perseverate about every anxious thing. It's programmed to look for negativity. So getting on ahead of it and switching to a positive perspective, asking myself a question that's going to presuppose the positive, and it's called an affirmation, not affirmation, but
Mhm.
affirmation. Not how do I know they're going to listen? It's how do I know I bring value? How do I know this message is important? I start training my brain to start looking for those things. I start building up my physicality to take up space and exhibit that. And then when I'm in that meeting with skeptics or people that don't think that my voice should be heard, I'm buffered a little bit
Yeah.
from all that nonsense. And I've created a pathway to be more in the agency side.
Yeah. One little trick too that came to us, I think it was a really early, it might have been my very first episode, was with my sister-in-law who is a performer.
Uh,
And I talked to her about triggering and when your voice is in your throat and you want to cry instead of, talk. And she said, well, you can take a time out.
Are you sure? Who said I get a timeout? Yes. Yes.
Never occurred to me
You get a timeout. Yeah,
that
no,
you
you're
could take communication, you could say, you know what, we're going to take a pause. We're going to take a little commercial now. I'll come back.
yeah.
But that was another thing. I love the idea of puffing up at the table. I wish I were back in the boardroom so that I could puff up and just let Yo at the
Yay.
table. She's not sitting on the side. She's sitting at the table. Oh, gosh, we could talk for a really long time, Salvatore. I mean, you just got a great book.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm not kidding you. I really do think that we need to get this as a textbook.
Yeah.
Oh, it's also good. So, how can our listeners follow you and find your book? Oh my gosh.
Please come follow me. Find my book. I just started a Substack. If you're a Substacker, come join me on Substack. But follow me on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way. And you can go to my website, clearandcompellingplaybook.com. The book is clear and compelling, but I call it clearandcompellingplaybook.com so that you can think of this as more play. Like we're going to try a technique, we're going to play with it. So yes,
Yeah, that's good. That's a very good from a marketing perspective. I like that a lot because it also says it's not boring. It's not, it's like you're involved. You can
yeah,
be part of it.
nothing boring about having your entire body like catch fire trying to talk to somebody. Oh, shit, I have to speak now.
Exactly. With all those nerves running around in your body. Um, so tell me, what would you tell your 20 something self today? Would you say be
I
a
love
better
this.
communicator?
Oh, wow. No, I mean, I think were I able to go back and tell my 20-year-old self something, I would say speak before it feels comfortable.
Mm.
I stayed silent. I waited for the right moment. I overthought, overanalyzed things before speaking my truth far too long, thinking that I needed to build up some sense of acceptance or belonging before I could speak. Speak before it feels comfortable because it never feels fully comfortable.
Mm. Oh boy, that's great. I know that you got a chance to go to the online store and you fell in love with our stand up.
I'm totally in love with the stand-up. I'm going to be using this all the time, but I also love the cards. You got this. All of the ones that say you got this, I want all of them.
There you go. Well, it'll be my pleasure to get them to you.
By the way, can I ask you who's doing the artwork? I think that little cat that's wound up in the yarn and it says "Trust your gut." That one resonated with me. But
Yeah.
who's the
Well,
artist?
I put it together. He's called Snarky Cat and he's designed by Tim Holtz. Well, thank you again for joining us and sharing all of your insights. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
What an energizing and insightful conversation with Salvatore. His work reminds us that communication is both an art and a science, and that leadership begins with the courage to use our voice even when it shakes. If today's episode resonated with you, you can explore Salvatore's work and free communication resources at his website, salvatoremanzi.com/CCBP, and follow him on Instagram at Salvatore Manzi. And don't forget to get his new book. It's so good. Here are 3 takeaways from the episode. 1, the 3 pillars of powerful communication are content, delivery, and presence. 2, introverts and analytical thinkers can learn to command the room. And 3, communication isn't about performance, but connection. As always, thank you for listening, for sharing these stories, and for walking alongside me on this journey. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow the podcast, leave a review, or share it with someone who could use a little encouragement to find their own voice. Next week, we'll be joined by Sue Hinsenberg, a former television producer turned novelist whose debut, The Retirement Plan, brings humor, heart, and a touch of mystery to the realities of aging, purpose, and reinvention. Until then, stay inspired, lead with purpose and your heart, and keep speaking your truth, even when it feels uncomfortable. Bye.